Howdy, y'all. Now, you know what this is and you know who we are. So I'm just going to filter Franco right into this thing. Let's run this thing down. After the close of the Warner Discovery mega merger, what was supposed to be the hot property, CNN Plus, seems like it's failing. The Twitter drama continues as Apollo Group, I think they're called Apollo Group, whatever they're called.
Yep, Apollo Group.
Is now jumping into the bid. Those are the same people who bought up all of Yahoo AOL's assets. And hey, inverse Kramer strikes again. Netflix loses subs and their stock crashes. And finally, of course, it's two large men who hail from the world of Tex-Mex. It's back, people. Taco Bell's Mexican pizza's back. I know what you're thinking. This is the business news show. Why is he talking about Mexican pizzas? I don't know what to tell you, except that's just the way things go. I'm Market Explainer.
It's money, money, money. It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
So CNN has suspended all of their marketing spend, and they have laid off their CFO because CNN Plus sucks. And this story, by the way, is not coming from Fox Business, okay? By the way, Fox has their own platform called Fox Nation, which is too patriotic. Chill out. But their platform is actually seeming to have done pretty well. We actually have a stream-heavy episode today, but they have 150,000 subscribers, which is, here's why that's funny to me. There's a YouTuber, kind of a lefty guy named Tim Pool, who does I think he does a nightly live stream. I think he gets 1 million or 2 million people to watch every day. And here's CNN, this crown jewel of news, of course. It's all fake, right? CNN is a deep state plan, as we all know.
Okay, all right. But look, go ahead.
Let me say that one more time with the correct voice. CNN is a deep sate plant, as we all know.
He filed for bankruptcy this week. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that the wide world of streaming platforms, they're all figuring out that, hey, Quibi ain't the only one that can eat it. Everybody can get it, man. Everybody can get it.
Well, look, can we all go back to the fact that news networks, maybe they need to be taken out to the barn and shot, just as in general, like on TV news networks, especially cable news networks.
That is the first pseudo-political thing you have ever said where I just want to clap and go, they all got to go.
Well, because they've all taken their sides, and they all pander to what their advertising base is, right? That they don't technically make money. They get, you know what I mean? They generate income by selling ads to people that they're niche and that kind of stuff. And and what it leads to, in my opinion, is just bad news. Bad news network, bad all of it. And this, to me, encompasses all of your major news networks because they've all gone down this same path. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery, which is the worst name ever, by the way. Their new logo with the WB on top of the word Discovery is just awful. Just be Warner Brothers. Just drop Discovery. Just be Warner Brothers,
or be Warner Discovery.
Whatever. Like you said, Warner Discovery, and change it entirely. Whatever.
That little B, just change the B to a D. Done.
And it would fit in the shield the same and everything.
Yes.
Anyway, my point is so this merger is happening. This was kind of on CNN's plate before the merger was going to happen. Warner Brothers kind of pissed off about the fact that they went ahead with this before, you know what I mean? Before the merger, when they were like, you should have just slowed down, because like every companies that merger, you get this company that is on top. Maybe your thought processes aren't in line with each other.
Right.
Maybe it's
Which
like,
is
hey, we have a completely different vision than you originally had, and ours is
right.
better. And now you've stubbed your toe.
Which is why which HBO Max is ostensibly a successful platform.
Well, it's gonna
Um,
be their. It's gonna be their platform. You know what I
right,
mean? HBO Max is gonna be their Amazon Prime, right? Where you
right,
go to right now, you can go to Amazon Prime. You can access a whole bunch of different channels, a bunch of different network.
right.
You can access, like,
It's a set top. The future of these platforms is they're all just a set top replacement for your cable,
right,
right?
exactly.
You
So
you go on
Amazon
Roku, you
Prime is
open it up.
Roku,
Yes,
right, or
exactly.
Apple TV. It just
Right,
gives you access to a whole bunch of different channels,
right,
just like you have now on your cable. You're just using it in an old fashioned menu versus like
right,
a Netflix menu, right?
right.
So, and Warner Brothers sees that possibility for HBO Max. So, in their mind, why in the world would I have this standalone CNN product plus
Right.
as and get subscribers when I can just make that part of HBO Max? And all right,
Right.
here's my HBO Max news network
Right. It's
that
CNN Plus. So I'll just say this much: I'm not a subscriber to Fox Nation, but they did a better job branding it, and I think did a better job getting their existing consumer to buy into it, right? Because
mhm,
unlike CNN, Fox Nation is a product because Fox has had this problem where they will lose advertisers.
right.
CNN can stop a live broadcast in the middle of a crisis. They can say, "Hey, like this happened when the war broke out in
Right.
the Eastern Europe.
Hmm.
There was an Applebee's ad, and people were rightly so.
I remember that. Yes, very
People were
upset.
rightly so going, here's the war brought to you by boneless chicken wings reheated in a microwave by some guy who just got done working 12 hours on a
Right.
construction site. You know who I'm talking about. God bless those people that are doing God's work. But
Hmm.
I don't think they've done an effective job. First of all, CNN's numbers in general aren't great, right? So if you take a company who doesn't have they have a fan base. They don't have a rabid fan base like MSNBC does, right? CNN
Even
has like
even if they did, okay, let's just break this down, right? So,
right,
150,000 subscribers. That's that. You said it earlier. There are the people that used to be on Rising, right, now have
right,
their own news network where they're even
yeah,
before they left.
breaking points,
Yeah, breaking points, and even before they left the rise, they were already getting more daily eyeballs than CNN or whatever.
right,
But here's what I don't understand that drives me nuts from a business person perspective, right? Talking about market explainer here is CNN as a company made $1 billion last year off
good
of
for them,
advertising. Okay,
right,
now a company that has literally on some days less than 100,000 people eyeballs in a
right,
day, which is horrible. It's awful. I mean, it's a
right,
fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what it was at its peak, right? Is still because of how companies spend money,
right,
what's called legacy advertising, right? These
right,
companies that spend money on TV every day, all day, because that's what they've always done,
right,
right? And that kind of stuff. That company can still make $1 billion when nobody's watching.
yeah,
Nobody's watching that will spend money.
which is like there's still very much so a boomer mentality about what is real and
Right.
like oh, that internet thing is still for some people like that's not real. Like you and I sit here and do a podcast, and I had filled in for a friend on the radio, and my family's like, "You were on the radio?" I'm like, "Hey, I can reach literally the like
Right.
that station has the reach of a toaster." And listen, grateful for the opportunity.
I
Don't
get you.
mistake me. But I'm saying I'm on a global platform talking about daily business news every week,
Right.
and you're falling over yourself because By the way, no one could figure out how to use this app from the radio station because it was so
It's awful. Yeah.
not user friendly.
Right.
And so then they're like, how do we listen to this? I'm like, just wait till it comes out as a podcast so you can just get it on Apple.
Exactly. Then you can just download it like you should be anyway every week and that
Yes.
kind of but that's the part that drives me nuts, right? Is
Right.
you have this just because it's a legacy product, just because it's CNN, right, or
Right.
whatever, they're still making money off of advertising. And look, it is what it is, right? If you can make money, make money. But Warner Brothers Discovery is just pissed off because it got finished before, because they had plans for it. They still have
Right.
plans for it. They want to, even though it literally has been out like a week and a half, they want
Right.
to not only stop it, which effectively they have because they've taken all the marketing dollars away from it. And if
Right.
you're not marketing it, it's not going to grow,
Of
right?
course not.
And they want to break it up. They don't want to fire everybody. This is not them trying to get rid of CNN. They
Right.
just have the futuristic viewpoint on it. They want to take pieces of it and put it on the CNN app that they can sell advertising to, just like they do
Right.
on TV. And they
Right.
want to take pieces of it and put it on HBO Max, so they now have a quote unquote legitimate news network on
Right.
HBO Max to give them another reason for people to click through that app, as we
Correct.
said before, right?
Yeah. So I think that the value proposition of buying a CNN, a historic property
Mm-hmm.
that people trust. Now, the people who trust it, stupid. Stupid
Nah, no,
idiots.
no, no, no. Stop it. Stop
Yeah.
it. That's
The
not
people who
true.
trust it are currently right now in their car by themselves wearing an entire box of masks. The whole
That is not
box.
true. I read CNN along with everything else. Go ahead.
I know, and we actually pull a lot of stories from CNN Business. But listen, I just found it fascinating that there is the belief here that we could all just go start a streaming platform. And what I started saying a while ago was, listen, it worked for Netflix because Netflix is Netflix. And we're going to
Right.
talk a little later about how it ain't working for them anymore. But more and more of these platforms, more and more of these, because Netflix was buying the rights to stream a show. But then, like, for instance, Disney said, we can just start our own platform.
Right.
We don't need you. Well, guess what? At some point, I just have cable again, right? Where I'm just on my Roku going, what do I want to watch? But I'm scrolling through Amazon Prime, and then I'm scrolling through HBO Max and Disney Plus. And right now I pay so much money for streaming that it is like a cable bill.
Well, or you're stuck in the middle like me with a wife that refuses to get rid of cable, so you're just paying for everything. It's like
Yeah,
double your cable bill, right?
Yeah.
It's literally I pay double because I
Yeah.
have I pay to have access to all these apps,
Right.
and I still have traditional cable.
Well,
I'm just
I have no opinion on this as the big man, as you know. I've taken on, when it comes to my friends' wives, I take on their position on their
I
wife.
would too.
Yeah, which is, if you're afraid of her, I'm afraid of her. If you think she's dusty, I think she's dusty. If you think she's the greatest thing of all time, I probably disagree because I don't think that about anybody, but good for you is what I think, right?
Go neutral. That's the best way, man.
Yeah.
Just go neutral.
Yeah, so you're afraid of her, so I'm afraid of her. So I go, you have to keep doing all this. But anyways, that's the story, and I think it's fascinating to see. We're going to jump into this next thing, but what's that?
I was just going to say, I think you're going to see over the next couple of years a shift in not only CNN, but I think
Right.
what Warner Brothers Discovery is going to do with it is going to lay the groundwork for what you see as news in general. Because I think you and I have talked about, and I just, this is important because this is a podcast.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see moving forward companies like Warner Brothers Discovery start eating up news podcasts and joining with
Yes.
these companies, like you're seeing with, again, going back to podcasts partnering with bigger companies. You're going to see these mergers happen because they realize that once you get past millennials into Gen Z, which are now turning into their early 20s, right? They're teenagers turning into their 20s. They now have money to spend. They aren't watching cable news at all, right? So if you don't change to your in-app, in streaming platforms or whatever, you will die. podcasting is big with millennials. It's big with Gen Zers.
Right.
TikTok, these kind of
Yo,
YouTube shorts.
I asked one of my nieces about what podcast she listens to. She told me these three podcasts, and I looked them up. Never heard of any of the three of them. I tried to listen to them, and I don't get what I just because I don't want to be like my dad, who was always just like, "Well, what are you doing? What is this you're listening on TV?" I'm like, no, I'm on a computer listening
Right.
to a YouTube. So
But what they're doing though is that to them is news. They're
right,
listening to what they consider a popular podcaster. My children do
right,
it too. They're listening, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, whether it's a podcast format of it.
right, right,
They're
right, right,
listening to people talk about things that they're interested in. That's a
right.
news network. That's
That's
that's what a
news.
news network is.
Right.
So that they're just doing it in that way. So if CNN, Fox, all of these companies don't walk that path, which
Adapt.
Warner Brothers Discovery looks like that's what they want to do.
Yeah, because like Discovery, by the way, is a very successful streaming platform,
Of course
right?
it is.
So like there's a between the two, right? You can take the news shows, which by the way, I don't think any of them are real on CNN, but that's just my opinion. You can take the news shows, put them on Discovery, and you can take the opinion shows, which are all just people getting paid by the CIA to say
Right.
dumb things. You can put them on HBO Max, and it encourages people to not only adopt, because at some point in time there's going to be they're going to pick a new name, and
Right.
the new name is it's going to be one platform, and I really do think Warner Discovery is a much better name than Warner Brothers Discovery, but that's just me. And I think that there's just going to be tiers of like here, it's just going to be just like your cable, right?
Yes, that's all it's going to be.
What, like, okay, do you just want movies? Do you just want DC? Like, what do you want? And then okay,
Mm-hmm.
so for $15.99 you get everything, right?
Right.
Which is like, I have Disney Plus and Hulu Plus, Hulu without ads, and I was like, wait, we can just get ESPN Plus and get fights for free if we just buy the combined
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
because they're now owned by the same people. I was like, oh, why aren't we doing that?
Well, and
And
they don't make that easy either. That's the also the
no,
gray area we're in because there's a lot of channels that you can get through like Prime that are like $1 cheaper if you go through Prime to get them, and you
right.
know, so but they make none of that easy, right? Like to figure out or whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that. I think the future of news is in this format. Right, the
Yes,
podcasting format. I think that's what Warner Brothers Discovery is moving CNN, and everybody else is trying to get that off of these
if
legacy products.
right, and if I was Warner Discovery and I know now own CNN.com, my thought would be, I need to make this platform essentially YouTube for news,
Yes. Right.
where I find the correct talent and we
Mm-hmm.
do some live streams, but those live streams continue to live because you have the servers, you have the talent, you have the tech, you have everything that you need to turn CNN.com into the YouTube for news, or have a
Mm-hmm.
section where it's video, and then you can do the writing or whatever, right?
Right.
Right. And so, hey, I was going to say Jeff Zucker, but he's out at CNN because he deserves it because he's a scumbag. So anyone else, whoever the heck is running things over at CNN, I'm available for consultation.
Of
Okay,
course. For a fee.
so of course, yeah, they
For a
know that.
fee and some free advertising for Market
Yeah, of course.
Explainer. Got
Listen,
it. Mhm.
do they hate capitalism? Only for money on their shows. Okay, all of these people love capitalism. All of them have endangered species fur coats in their closets at their homes, and most of them have undocumented laborers that work for them for no money.
And see, and Danny's not a conspiracy theorist. He says it all the time. Go
I,
ahead.
yep. We're gonna jump into the next thing, but before we do that, I want to tell you that we have a Patreon. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
catch this episode in full instead of just in clips, you can go to patreon.com/market explainer. We offer that for free without our own ads. Listen, we're on YouTube. Sometimes YouTube spices it up with their own ads. We can't control that. Just
Mm-hmm.
happens because right now there's weird things happening with Patreon where there's no place for our videos to live. So we're working on it. Okay, we're a work in progress. We're always getting
Well, and
there.
if you go to the Patreon, that would move things along quicker. So
Yes, and
support
hey,
us getting
if
to the
you
point
would,
where we own everything.
by the way, if you would join our Patreon and give us money, that'd be
Yes.
cool, right?
Yeah.
And if you do it for no other reason, do it because I'm a brown person, and it's good.
No. 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 Now you're getting into
And
reparations. That's just wrong, Dave. Stop
yeah, well, which doesn't make any sense because I'm Indian.
it.
So, and my grandfather came here in the '70s and drove a Buick Riviera with a 455. Anyways, all right.
It's so wrong.
Right. So this next story, this Twitter story is not over, right? I think we're just going to end doing this every week for the next month.
Right.
So after Elon Musk offered $43 billion for an app, by the way, that doesn't make any money, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the Twitter board rejects the offer, and they say we're going to take a poison pill, which is
Right.
basically a way of saying we don't want your money so bad. We're going to basically crater our business.
It's not that they don't want his money. They would gladly take his money. It's they don't want him. They don't want
Yeah.
his ideas, and they don't want the fact. Look, he said it last
Do
week
you know why
after
they don't
you and
want
I.
him? Do you know why they don't want him?
Why is
Because
that?
he's African American.
That is not true. Stop it. Well, he is African American, but that's not why they don't want his money. Look, they look. He said it after you and I recorded last week's about him
Yep.
buying such a big chunk of Twitter. The
Right.
story then came out that he offered on Twitter, by the way,
Right.
$43 billion to purchase the company. He
Or
believes,
$54.20 a share. So
which is
420.
like
420
at
Joe.
the time, it was something like $20 more
So
than
it
it
was
was
about
on the.
$10 over, yeah.
Right.
You're at
So it
40
was
bucks.
more than what the stock price was trading at, right? So it
Right.
was an abundance. The point
Uh,
though is he believes for Twitter to change as a company, and oh by the way, Michael Dell did this the last time, right? Michael Dell bought back his company, took it private
yeah.
to
We did a
make
whole thing about it.
changes that he thought were necessary for Dell to still be around. He
And
saw
hey,
it
it worked.
turning the drain, and it did work. Absolutely
Uh,
did work, right?
uh,
And Elon Musk thinks that Twitter and its abilities are being not used properly,
correct.
and he wants to take it private, make those adjustments, because then you don't have to deal with shareholders, you don't have anybody looking over
Right.
your shoulder. As long as you're doing everything legally, you can run a
Right.
company however you want to run a company. They don't
Right.
want that to happen. And oh, by the way, if you look, I don't remember, I need to find it so we can link it down below.
Right.
I was looking at the amount of stock that Jack Dorsey and these board members actually own. It
Yeah.
is next to nothing. Jack
Right.
Dorsey owns like 2% of Twitter, and
One
everybody else
point
on this
something.
and
Yeah, one
everybody
point
else on
something.
this board owns less than 1%. It's like 0.8 and point this or
Yeah.
whatever. So you have a whole people running this company that have such a small amount of
Right.
this company.
And I didn't realize this, but the new CEO, Parag Agrawal, um, which he's Indian and I'm Indian, but we're two different kinds of Indian, and so my people don't like his people, and his people don't like my people.
Stop it. There's no
Okay.
people here. We're all people. We're all in it together. All right.
Right. He's worth apparently $12 billion. I have a lot of questions. Where did he get $12 billion? And my second question is, why are you the CEO of Twitter if you have $12 billion? My friend, you're doing this wrong. The whole point of coming to this country and getting wealthy and having not just a billion, but 12 of these billions
Mm.
is to go do stupid things with it, right? You
Well,
should
but
be
they're
taking-
getting paid stupid amounts of money to be on
Yes.
this board, right?
They are, yeah.
And Elon Musk came out, I think, yesterday. We're recording this on the 20th. I think the story came out yesterday, where he said that if he did purchase Twitter, he would automatically put all of these board members' salary to zero.
Yeah,
like
of course.
you're getting
I
paid
think he
$0.
Yeah, and I think he said it's we just saved $3 or $4 million a year right there.
Right,
Something like
exactly.
that.
Right,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, by just eliminating their not their positions, but their
Right.
you know what I mean, their salaries, and that
Yeah.
can be true in a lot of different companies, nonprofits, for example, where these board members get paid exorbitant fees and it's not going to where it needs to go. But that's a completely different subject. look, they've got a gravy train. This
Right.
board of Twitter, these people
Right.
in Twitter have a gravy train and have had it for years. All of their money
Hey.
goes to them
Right.
inside, the people inside the
Right.
circle, and they don't want that to stop,
Of
and they're
course not.
willing to go the old fashioned 1980s poison pill route to
Right.
go, which in the short term affects their money. But
Right.
when you're a billionaire, it doesn't matter the short term.
Correct. Right. Because you're not worried about like, oh no, I have to keep up with the mortgage on my house in the Hamptons. Like
Exactly. So
that's
if you take a short term loss, or even just less money, Rich, right? And look, the poison people I've been talking to several people because the poison pill that hasn't actually
right.
been used in a while, okay, it
Right.
came out in the 1980s, but people don't understand what the poison pill means. Look, I'm not going to get all
What is
technical
that?
on you.
No, you just
It's
get into it. Yeah.
Well, it's just simple. It's essentially a way for them to create the ability for them to purchase shares at a steep discount without
Right.
giving Elon Musk the ability to. So if I
Okay.
give everybody on the board the ability to purchase shares at a discount, it dilutes his what he may own, let's just say call it 10% right now, by creating more shares and them being owned by the board or any other investor. Now
Right.
his what is today 10% because I'm adding shares of stock to the market
Right.
becomes 8% and then
So
7%
yeah,
and then
it
6%.
it it allows them to dilute him without him being able to continue to
And
invest to
it's
maintain his
and that those purchases are made by people that are agreeing not to sell those
right.
shares.
Right.
So he can't go out and just purchase
Right.
right
More
those
than
creation of
it,
shares.
right. And it came out later that Vanguard had upped their position, and the the Twitter sphere was like, "Oh, Vanguard is." Well, it turns out that they had bought it, and the filing had become public before,
Right.
and so it had nothing to do with Elon Musk. Which is here's what I found fascinating is here's Vanguard, here's all of these big funds, they all have
Mm-hmm.
money. I have a question for you. How do
Sure.
people have billions of dollars continue to invest in something that never makes any money? What is the point?
But it does. Think about this. Think about, let's say, your Vanguard or
R-
BlackRock, which are two of the biggest companies that own basically the entire world at this
That's
point when you look
correct.
at their stock indexes,
Right.
right? Okay, let's just say, and this is how it goes back to the rich people make money because they have the availability of money. Let's
Right.
just say you're Vanguard. Let's just say
Right.
you have an unlimited checkbook and you get
Basically.
wind saying Elon Musk is going to buy Twitter for $54 a share and it's
Right.
currently rating at $44 a share.
Right.
And you can quietly accumulate as many shares as you want for $44 a share.
Right.
You know Elon Musk is going to buy them. So you can
Right.
literally write a check for as many shares as you want for $44,
Right.
knowing that you are now going to make $10 for every share. You
Right.
literally just wrote yourself a check
Of
for
10x.
$10 a share.
Right.
Does that
That
make
makes
sense?
sense.
That's how they invest in these things. And if it
Right.
works out, great. That's a lot of
Right.
money goes in their bank account. If it doesn't work out, they've just
Yeah.
bought equity in a company that, you know what I mean, they'll hold on to for a little longer.
Right. So here's me, a guy, super capitalist, believe in free markets and all that jazz. And I look at that decision and I go, how did I become a conspiracy theorist? And I go, well, here's a multi-billion dollar corporation, like you said, the two
Hmm.
largest shareholders other than Elon Musk basically own the universe. And I go, hey, maybe just throwing this out there, this platform is basically washing money for, the government, several governments. Because, hey, by the way, two or three sovereign wealth funds are also on this list. And
That's also a possibility.
one of these sovereign wealth funds is from a nation that may or may not have dismembered a journalist a few years ago publicly, and oopsie daisy, nobody did anything about it. Like, so you
That's funny.
dismembered a journalist. Life goes on, right?
Well, and look, here's where Elon Musk is smart, and this happens a lot in this kind of
Right,
industry. Elon Musk could obviously, we know his wealth. We know that he could buy Twitter all by himself, right?
Right.
But by floating this whole, and you said Apollo Group, and it's just the one.
Yep.
If I own an investment fund, I would write an article right now saying that I was interested in this. And here's
Right.
why: Apollo Group may not be a part of it. No other, you
It's
may not be a part of it.
it's Apollo Global Management. They're the same people that bought Yahoo and AOL's and Huffington Post and all that jazz.
But it could be true or it could be an advertising stunt. Either way, and here's why: because
Great advertising stunt.
by getting more people involved in this and saying, "Hey, what I'm doing is I'm guaranteeing that company money." If Elon
Right.
Musk takes this private, at some point in the future, he's going to take it public again, and any group. Apollo Group in this case, or any other investment fund that's part of
Right.
this, that okay, I'm going to put up half the capital or 10% of the capital, right?
Right.
Elon Musk is going to put up half of it, and 15 other groups are going to put up the other half, right? Whether leveraging his debt or the Twitter's debt or whatever,
Right.
taking on debt to accumulate. Those companies are looking at it as a 2 or 3, 4, 5 year play that when it
Right.
goes public again, they cash everything. Like
Right.
it's a long-term CD for
Yeah.
them at something like a 3,000% interest rate.
Yeah. It's going to rain money on them, is what I think. Now, here's what I do think that is perhaps the most wild thing is I actually do think this is going to be successful. I don't think it's going to look the way people expect it to look in terms of Elon Musk owning the whole thing. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think you're going to see a Peter Thiel type fellow, Mark Cuban, who I've gotten into arguments before on Twitter with my now banned account, which is why I'm in support of Elon Musk buying Twitter because I'm going to finally get it back.
No, he's not unbanning everyone that's been banned. But go ahead.
He'll unban me, I promise. But Mark Cuban said, "Hey, if you really want to piss people off, get Peter Thiel to join your purchase." And the rumor on the street right now is that he's going to come back with a hard offer, and it's probably going to include a couple of. Listen, we saw this with the short squeeze a little over a year ago, where funds decided, like Social Capital, Chamath Palihapitiya, decided, "Hey, wait, there's a bunch of funds on this side. They're sorting GameStop and
Right.
AMC. Now there's enough people on the other side trying to squeeze the short position.
Mm-hmm.
The funds go, hey, wait, we can just compete with these because we strengthen that position because
Right.
we bring something as a huge fund. So I do believe that you're going to see one or two large funds. There's already a few venture guys tweeting about that if Elon Musk is unsuccessful at this bid, the system is rigged. Hey guys, you run a hedge fund. You're the kings of rigged systems. Okay?
That is true. I as of today, and we started putting dates on these episodes.
Right.
Yeah, as of today, I don't think he'll be successful. I don't think with this poison pill. I think they have dug in the trenches at this point that they are not willing, barring something changing, they are not willing to allow him to take this company private. Again, they don't want to. It's a gravy
Right.
train for them. They
Of
have to make
course.
minimal effort or changes to Twitter for it to
Right.
function the way it does.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So they don't want off this gravy train. They're going to do everything in their power to stop him. And Elon Musk doesn't have the alternative of creating Twitter 2.0. He doesn't
Yeah.
have that ability. Nobody, we have now seen with all these
Four.
different apps over and over
Four of them,
again
yeah.
that no one will replace Twitter, at least right now.
Right. So, I do think that he has pointed out a couple of key issues that need to be
Of course.
fixed. And he did also point out, which, hey, guess what? He wasn't pointing it out because the board of Twitter didn't know. He's pointing it out so all of us will turn around and repeat it. He pointed out that, if Twitter doesn't take an offer, Twitter's board has a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders
Right.
to maximize profits.
Right.
So when anti-capitalists talk about capitalism is about maximizing profits. Now that's not what a free market capitalist system actually is.
No.
This is a law that was created to basically help extremely wealthy people have a legal out to say I have to screw people over because they're evil and they want to do it. But
Well, but there's also some accountability that comes with that, right? If
yeah,
Elon Musk gets enough people, and that's why he's playing this on Twitter, right? Out in the
yes,
public. Because he wants the court of public opinion, as they say, on his
right,
side. If you out there and you own shares of Twitter and you want to
yes,
cash out for more money than it's worth, and he gets enough of those on board, the board can't stop him, right? So
right,
if he wins the court of public opinion in shareholders, right?
right,
In shareholders, then
correct,
they can do that. Now, look, this whole poison pill thing, it hasn't been enacted yet. They're
right,
threatening. It
right,
can't be enacted until someone, whether Elon Musk or a fund or anybody else, gets to
right,
15% ownership. That's the magic
right,
number. So they can't
right,
do anything until then. They're just telling you flat out that if anybody gets to 15%, we're already set up, guys.
right,
I got a document right here. All I got to do is sign it, and we're
right.
going down this road.
And what they've decided is we're just going to burn ourselves at the stake and let the city watch us burn, because rather than be successful. So I think that there's enough of a threat of this going to court, and nobody wants any of their documents. This is like our good friend of the show, Matt Cox, saying, "Yes, I was doing mortgage fraud, but everyone else was doing mortgage fraud. So when they caught me doing mortgage fraud, the mortgage company was like, let's help you do mortgage fraud to someone else, because we don't want anyone looking at our books."
Right, right.
So in
Because
order to,
they created a gravy train. Now again, that's my
yes,
opinion, right? They don't
that's
want
your opinion.
anybody in their business.
But listen, it's also my opinion, and it's also like, hey, these people figured out that this is a pseudo political platform today, as of right now.
Hmm.
This isn't a platform where we used to go tweet about sports, whatever. This
Right.
has become political. It's wholly political now. And what's interesting about that is these people are just like senators. If you look at most of these people who run and win for the US Senate, they go into it like $600,000 in debt. And after 2 terms, they're like, yeah, I have $12 million. Hey, buddy, there's plenty of people who make $200,000 a year. Where'd you get $12 million?
Well, and that's why, look, this is, and I kind of said it last week, in that that's why Elon Musk and several other people continue to call Twitter the current public square,
Correct.
public forum, because what they're trying to do is giving it this legal precedence
Yes.
of openness, right? That if
Right.
this is now how we all as Americans communicate, then
Right.
there should be some rules around this that
Right.
allow anyone, no matter what they say and all that kind of stuff, by going public square, right?
Yeah.
And
Which is stupid. It's a bad decision on on everybody's part, because I always like to point out, AT and T, and the government broke up AT and T, and all they did was they cut the head of Hydra. They cut off one head, and two more
right,
appeared. And
yeah,
it's not it's so the best thing for Twitter, the best thing for people, okay, is that Twitter crashes and burns. And then, oh
right.
no, a bunch of sovereign wealth funds that dismember journalists and billionaires that own the entire world, that have $1 trillion of assets under management. Oh, they lose $8. Who
But
cares?
look, if you're, and here's again the power, right? And I don't think Twitter, obviously, as you said, didn't understand this in the beginning or thought that it would become that.
Of
But
course not.
if in 2022, if you are Joe Bob, senator, Republican, whatever, for major federal office, right? Running against either someone that has never run before, not somebody that's been there for 10, 20 years,
Right.
30
Yeah.
years, whatever. If you're not a career politician, and but especially if your niche, if your people are fringe people, a very
Right.
niche people, right?
Right.
One way or the other, right or
Marjorie
left,
Taylor Greene's a great
you
example,
would
of
not
course.
get elected without Twitter. You
Of
would
course
not,
not.
because that's your
Yeah.
direct line to any group of people. You
Right.
could not get elected without
Now,
Twitter.
CC, now that you say that, well, we'll come to the close of the segment, but it begs the question. Now, is it moral or correct that there's been a certain group of people who I don't vote for, so I don't care, but I'm just saying,
Hmm.
who have been unfairly targeted by Twitter and the pink haired undercut, the people with the pink
That is
undercuts?
Danny's opinion that I do not
Yeah.
share. I don't think
Factually,
anybody's been unfairly treated in a lot of
well,
these things.
factually backed up by statistics, by the way. that hey, if you're a sitting congresswoman, can Twitter should it be okay that Twitter just says you're not on the platform? There was a gal who
Yes,
ran for
Twitter
Congress
is a business that pays taxes, and they're allowed to allow or not allow anybody on their network. Period. End of
fine. I
story. There is no exception.
I totally agree. And the meme that's been going around is somebody saying Twitter's a private company, can do what it wants. Elon Musk goes, yes. And then the third part of the frame is them going, Ree! Because he can just buy it. So
Right, then he should be able to just buy it, right? And
right,
look, and I get that. But if the
right,
United States government or anybody, any other entity wants to have their own version of Twitter with the rules that they can allow anybody to say anything,
right,
Truth Social that's dead, okay, then they can. But
right.
they're not, right? Twitter's not owned by the United
But
States
before
government.
Truth Social died, they went public via SPAC and put a couple $1 billion in that guy's pocket, I'm sure. Anyways, let's jump into this next thing. But before we do that, I want to let you know about Big Man Gear. Big Man Gear is the Big Man's merch brand. You go to bigmangear.com, print and shipped by Amazon, making all of your
Mm-hmm.
purchases super easy. So this next story, hold on, where did I put it? Netflix. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, the internet investing community, the Wall Street bets universe, as I call it,
Mm-hmm.
is because the Wall Street bet story last year spawned, I don't know if it spawned, but it popularized internet investors and internet investors thinking
100%.
and meme accounts of the like liquidity, YOLO options, all these people that I follow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something within that community that's called inverse Kramer. And that's if Jim Cramer of CNBC says to invest in something, short it because he's an idiot and he's wrong about everything all the time. So there's a
Which
tweet
is
from
not
him.
true, but that is what you're saying is accurate in that that's where that community comes from.
Correct. So he, in January of this month, told people to buy Netflix. Netflix, oops a daisy. Didn't it drop 20 points yesterday?
Well, look, yes, it did. It dropped 26 points this week, but and has lost since the beginning of the year half of its value, right? Half of its value entirely. But
Ah,
this is actually an interesting. You and I have talked about several times on here that stocks don't always make sense, and here's what I don't understand. Okay, the story that Danny's bringing up is for the first time in 11 years, 10, 11 years,
right.
Netflix for the first quarter of this year has lost subscribers, right?
200,000.
Okay, but there's a whole lot going on in the world, including a war. They took an entire country and no longer giving them the ability to access Netflix, right? So in a quarter where they were forecasted to grow by about 2 million subscribers, they shrank by 200,000 subscribers, which really is a negative of over 2 million subscribers,
Right,
right?
because you're expecting to grow. So it's really like you lost 2.2.
But this is where the part where stocks don't always make sense to me is
Right,
okay, I get it. That one particular statistic sounds bad.
right.
However, when you look at it, they still made money
Yeah.
because they increased their monthly rate, right, and stuff like
Right.
that. So even though they lost subscribers, they still made money. So if a
So this is,
company still makes money,
yeah.
who cares if they lost subscribers?
Right. So this is why, this is the thing that helped me understand what I always repeat on the show, which is the first principle of market economics is that value is subjective. Because that's the only way for me to square the circle that a company that is profitable lost 26 points in a week. Its stock went down 26% and lost half of its share value from the beginning of the year, even though it's still profitable. And on the
Not
other
only
side of
profitable, but
that,
grew by 10% year over year. This same quarter
correct.
last year, they made 10% more, an extra $8 billion this
Right,
first quarter, and lost half of its value. That makes no sense
right.
economically at all.
And that's why listen, there's one thing that Dave Ramsey says that is correct. He's not right about everything, but he's right about a few things. And the first one is money is emotional, right? And so if you take those two ideas and really, really let them soak in, it's really hard to. That's why I'm a free market economics guy, is
Mm-hmm.
because people make emotional choices with their money. And I, as an individual who tends towards things like statistics, math, and reason and logic, don't want to be subject to the emotional whims of people when it comes to money. I don't want to
Yeah.
have to live with the consequences of someone else being emotional with their money. They have to live with the consequences. Now, my own life, Big Man and I were just talking about this before. My family is going, they're selling a house and they're being emotional about it. And
Right.
I'm trying to be logical, which is like, hey, we're doing great. But
Mm-hmm.
they set an expectation. They didn't meet that expectation. They beat the market. They beat the market by like 15% or 20%.
Right.
And they're still
Right.
like, that's not enough. And I go, listen, I'm all
It's
about
never
greed.
enough.
I am all about greed. Okay. But yeah, we've done well. So that's where the reason I keep saying this is for people like us who are business people who try to look at the world through a logical lens with by you and judging things based on the facts, we're not the only people. There are other people,
No.
and
Yeah.
those other people are emotional, and we have to contend with. Hey, I might be a little spectrumy when it comes to money, but they're being emotional about it. I'm going, hey, listen, your Louis Vuitton bag, it's worth $28. Like that's
Right. Like that's the materials that are put in it.
like
That's the yeah.
like we'll even use a better example. Uh Insulin. If you factor in all of the costs, including the
The bottle.
not just the bottle, all of the research, all of the
Mm-hmm.
doctors, everything, at $8 a bottle, they're making the profits are astronomical,
Yeah, it's
right?
pennies to make. It's pennies,
Yes,
literally pennies. Less than $1 for every vial, and that includes the
and then you
bottle, the cap, the
right.
everything.
It's and then you say, okay, like, hey, how like what percentage? And here's the other crazy part: you go to other countries, go to Mexico, you go to other places,
Mm-hmm.
you can buy the insulin made in this country for nothing. It
Right.
feels free. Because I know people right now who jumped the border into old Mexico to buy their so, but for whatever reason, it's emotional and there's insurance companies, so they're able to charge more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to this situation, Netflix is expecting to lose more customers, which is nobody expects growth to be perpetual, right?
Well, I think, but that's not true. That's what we just said in motion. I think people do. I have always had this question when it came to anything that relies on, big companies like that. Look, there are only so many people in the world, right? There are only so many people in the world with internet access, right? And so there are only so many people that Netflix can sign up to have access to their thing. I've asked this question about cell phone carriers for 20 years. There are only
Right,
so many people that have cell phones,
right,
and they just shuffle them back and forth in the American economy. Everybody has a cell phone in today's world. They're not signing up new people. They're just
right,
sharing them amongst their people, so they
right,
can't grow anymore. So it should not be about growth. It should be about profits. Which one of
right.
these companies
Is
is
the
doing?
most
It's
profitable,
Verizon making the most profit because they're
right?
right doing the right decisions, making the right money, keeping up with technology, whatever it is. But that's not. Again, to me, this doesn't make sense because I am that logical guy. If you
Right.
say, again, take Joe Bob Company, and this year they made $8 billion more this quarter than they did last year, that's a company I want to invest in. Now, I wouldn't invest in Netflix because, again, I don't think it's a sustainable model. They're already talking about, in this article, they're already talking about trying to get people on board with a advertising like the Hulu, right? Where you get a
I'm
less
out.
expensive model,
I'm
right?
already out. I'm
Well, but
out.
they go, okay, for $8, will you get access to Netflix, but it's going to have ads because we're
Yeah,
going to
but
charge people for ads.
how many people are out there? And I think this is, I'm going to throw out a number. It's 4% of Netflix's current subscribers will go, oh, instead of paying 21, I'll pay 8 with ads, right? They'll get no new subscriber growth and they'll lose money by doing that, is what I think.
Well, I mean, look, I was unaware that look, and they're going to get better at things like look. One of the biggest things hurting Netflix, we all know, is account sharing, right?
Yeah. They're,
Like
they're going to get rid of that.
yeah, well, and they're going to find out a way, right? But it's
Right.
difficult. It's not as easy as you think. Well, okay, well, if the primary account is at 101 Bebop Drive, then
Right.
any other account shouldn't work. Well, people go on vacation and they access their
Right.
Netflix and they travel for work or they whatever.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not
Right.
as just as simple as a location, right?
I have
It's much more difficult than that.
I have my personal Netflix for my usage, by the way, logged into 6 devices, right?
Right.
A cell phone, another cell phone, a
tablet.
laptop, a tablet, a couple of televisions, and that's just for my use, right? So, and then what do? If you have a household, you go, well, husband and wife, they got to have a separate account. That's stupid. I doubt that will work.
Well, look, they have identified, according to this article, they've identified at least 100 million households using Netflix that through shared accounts. At least
Okay.
100 million worldwide,
Right.
and only 30 million of those are United States and Canada. So there's 70 million households
Out of
around the
country.
world. But when you look at it the other way and go, look, there are literally billions of households out there. And I'm trying to find the particular number, and maybe I didn't write it down. But anyway, the point is there are, I think it was close to 1 billion households around the world that
Right.
have access to what we consider broadband internet
Right.
access that
Right.
don't have Netflix.
Right.
So if there's still 1 billion households out there, and look, that number grows every day, right? With
Right.
countries and technology and internet access getting more and more,
Right, but
there's
part
still
of
a
that
lot
is-
of growth out there.
Right,
Ability.
and still part of it is if Netflix doesn't have content in their native language, right? Already that's out, right? So if you don't have so if you have a country like Singapore where there's 3 or 4 languages, and you might have content for some of the Hindi speaking people, you might have some
Right.
content for the Cantonese speaking people, whatever. But you don't have anything in Singaporean. Yeah,
But they're getting better about that. I
They
mean, you
are.
can look at
They
our
are.
content because of what happened during, obviously, the pandy and stuff like that. There's
Right.
a lot of shows, movies, and stuff like that that came out on Netflix recently when
Right.
our Hollywood was shut down. Other countries were still recording, and
Yes.
it's a lot of dubbed over content, right, into
Right.
English.
Right.
Squid
Not
Games,
very good, by the way.
right?
What's
Squid
that?
Games was
Yeah, I don't
was
really-
dubbed over, but
People
they
keep
did a
talking
really
about
good
it.
job
Yeah.
of Squid Games in
Right.
the dub, right? The
Okay.
voice actors of the English, they did a very good job because I was one of those 10 years ago that was like, all right, if it's dubbed, I'm not watching it. It's weird to me. They
Right.
don't do a very good job of
I'll
expressing
watch
themselves.
subtitles. I can read subtitles anyway.
Absolutely. If it's an action movie, like a great like Bruce Lee esque
Yeah,
movie,
yeah,
like Ip Man, IP Man, right?
Yeah.
Ip Man are all those Ip Man because it's action. The 90% of the film's action. I'm only
Right.
reading subtitles for 10 or 20% of the movie. I'm
Right.
fine with that. I am not watching subtitles for some long drama French film. Not doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Intellectual Property Man was a action film. I thought it was about an attorney
No.
who just was like, okay,
No, you didn't. Ip Man
Okay.
was Bruce Lee's sensei. Ip Man
okay.
taught Bruce Lee's form of karate. He's the one that
Right.
created was Ip Man.
oh,
And it's 4 different movies now. I think they made the 4th and final movie about how he came up the ranks, how he developed
Okay.
this new type of martial art
Okay.
and, that kind of stuff.
yeah. You look like the type of guy who's into martial arts movies, aren't you?
Hey, I was a big fan of Bruce Lee as a kid, man. Who wasn't? Like come on.
Before my time. I'm a Jackie Chan
that is
guy.
true.
Okay.
Hey, Jackie Chan, all of the stuff Jackie Chan learned was from, Bruce Lee
Yeah.
led Jackie
Yeah,
Chan,
yeah,
Anyway, but back to the Netflix. Look, they are, investing last year. I think it was streaming services last year spent $50 billion on new content last year, trying to keep people on their platform.
Right.
Because remember, just like cell phones in this case, you not only have to attract new customers, you have to keep the ones you have.
Correct.
And as you and I have already said on here, like, I'm an idiot paying for every app plus cable.
Right.
Not most people aren't like that, right? I resisted for like the first years before it was Paramount Plus. It was CBS All Access, right? And that was where the Star Trek. I know Danny loves it when I talk about Star Trek and nerdy sci-fi stuff.
Go for it.
But CBS All Access bought the rights to Star Trek, and they started the new series, Star Trek Discovery, and then eventually Picard, where they brought Jean-Luc Picard back, right? But it's only available on what is now Paramount Plus, right? So I had to, even though I didn't want yet another app that I was purchasing, I had to purchase it if I wanted access to the new Star Trek content.
Right.
Right?
I want to figure out where this there's a new Saved by the Bell. Is the new woke Saved by the Bell?
Isn't that on Apple? I think it's on Apple.
No, it's not Apple. There's another. It's not Paramount Plus. It's the other one, and now I always forget which one it is.
But that's how they hook you in. If they not only can hook you in, they also then maintain you, right? Because now I have to, if I want to continue to get the next season of Picard, the next season of Star Trek Discovery, they actually have another Star Trek one coming out this fall. If you want to continue to have access to that, they're the only place you can get it. Okay. You just have to keep it.
It's on Peacock.
Peacock, yes. Peacock is...
I can't do it.
And a lot of the wrestling. If you're a big fan of wrestling, which I was as a kid, but not as an adult, wrestling. Peacock is it. Like Vince McMahon, Peacock.
I love you. And I'm so glad to hear that you're not into wrestling as an adult. Okay? Because I don't know if this relationship could move forward if that was the case.
Hey, a lot of people are, though. A lot of people are. Right? So Netflix has to spend money to retain customers and gather new customers.
Right. And they have to spend money. So I'm starting to wonder if we're reaching a point where there's so many streaming services that there's either going to be fault like Peacock and Paramount Plus. At some point in time, I think we're going to see more mergers because there's just no other way. Right.
Well, or they just die. Like every year, there are several viewing apps out there, Acorn TV, stuff like this, that create themselves, build out a library, and then die because they just can't get enough subscribers. They just can't get enough people to tune in, to sell enough money, to maintain the servers, and that kind of stuff. So it either they'll merger if they're big enough or they'll die. I think the bigger problem for places like Netflix, and we hinted on this earlier, Netflix, Hulu Plus, Amazon Prime, Peacock, right, Paramount Plus, is the next generation, Generation Z, right, and even the tail end of millennials and Generation Z. Generation Z is not that 23-year-old Generation Z. Isn't even sitting around watching Netflix. They're watching YouTube. They're watching YouTube Shorts. They're accessing it through a smart TV. Right. They're accessing it, like you said, TikTok or whatever. They're watching new, vibrant content that's created daily and put out there. And they're watching YouTube. They're watching TikTok.
But they're also watching Euphoria. Okay. I don't get it.
No. Yes, some of them are watching Euphoria on their parents' accounts, but they're not watching Euphoria. They're not going out and signing up for a TV service to watch Euphoria. They're playing video games. Video games to me is the number one scariest thing to any form of media. Because Gen Z, the alpha generation that's coming after Gen Z, they are spending more times playing video games than they do watching TV at all. Than they do watching any subscriber service at all, including YouTube. The alpha generation, they are playing more video games, time spent, than they do on YouTube.
Maybe maybe it's a good thing on some level. Like, at least they're active.
I don't know about that part of it. All I know is that has to be scary for a company like YouTube that obviously on top right now, right? And we just
Right.
talked about Kmart last week about how it was an innovator of its time,
Of course,
but then
yeah.
died. If the generation that's coming up behind Gen Z, the Alpha generation, which are in their early teens right now, right? 10 years from now, if they're not watching YouTube at all,
Yeah. What
if they're
happens?
not, and then Gen Z, the younger Gen Zers, right, that are then in their early 20s, if they, no, YouTube is the past. My parents watch YouTube. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, whatever. What happens to YouTube at that point? What happens to Netflix at that? Oh, Netflix, they never have anything good. I
Right.
subscribe to, you know what I mean? Like, I watch everything I need from my guys on TikTok or whatever
Right.
the app is
Drip
at the
Plus.
time,
Yeah.
right? You know, so if their eyeballs aren't on it,
Right.
what happens to Netflix? What happens to
Or
Hulu Plus?
are their eyeballs rotted from their VR headsets? So the government just beams it right into their brain.
That's happening too. Elon Musk's got that chip. You know what I
Yep.
mean? See that
Right.
does that not as much as I pick on Danny about being a conspiracy theorist, like does that not bother you, scare you a little bit? Going, the same guy that wants to buy Twitter is also developing a mind chip.
Yep. Problem. That's an issue. That's an
Like,
issue. Yep.
is
That's an
that
issue.
does
That's
that
an
not
issue. That's a problem.
the guy that wants to control what I know news network
Yeah.
and just develop a brain chip? Does
Yeah.
that is that like
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
a little
No, it's a
frightening to
problem.
me?
No, it's a
Like,
problem. I'm scared.
and I'm not a conspiracy nut, but that just
Hey,
sounds
can I tell you
scary to
something?
me.
That's why Danny remains loyal to the foil, baby. You ain't getting nothing in here, baby. Nothing's going in.
Whatever, you just like
People-
everybody else will line up.
People tell you to have an open mind because that's how your brain falls out. That's all I'm saying.
They just they just have to put an eye in front of it. They'll call it the eye brain augmented. Put an
Yeah.
eye in front of it, and people will buy it. Like, and people implant it.
That's why Danny has a Android phone.
You and me both, brother.
Yep.
You and me both. All right, what's our last story?
Well, our last story, we're going to get into it. But before we do that, I want to tell you about our sponsor. Of course, the big man conveniently likes to gloss over the sponsor when it's me.
Yeah. Well, you know.
AvenueLucky.com is my agency that develops websites and provides done-for-you marketing services, email marketing, ad management. We do it all. Check it out at AvenueLucky.com.
Very nice.
Yeah. So something I love about Taco Bell's innovation, and that is the sentence that no one.
That is a sentence that exists now in the universe.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah. Taco Bell is an innovator because they realized, like McDonald's, that except with McDonald's, it's the McRib, which is disgusting, by the way. I don't understand how anybody eats the McRib. I don't. I don't.
I don't understand how anybody eats McDonald's. All right, like the
That's
fries are really good as they're warm, like fresh out. But
That's
at
true.
the moment they get cold, they are done, and any
Yeah.
food from there is just not good.
Right. And then, listen, especially as Texans, if we have the option to go to Whataburger, why are you going to McDonald's?
Why
Okay?
would anybody? Why does McDonald's exist in Texas? But anyway, go ahead. I digress.
Fair
This is about Taco Bell. Go ahead.
This is this is about Taco Bell. So the thing I love about their innovation is that they drop and add stuff to the menu all the time.
Right.
And there was a petition, I think it was a change.org petition
Yeah.
created by an Indian guy, Jagdish something or other. And I can say it incorrectly because it's not racist when I do it.
Sure.
They circled a petition to bring back the Mexican pizza. And guess what? It worked.
This is, look, change.org and a website like it. Look, I think they did this with the McRib as well because it was supposed to be a last time the McRib, and then enough
Right.
people complained about it and stuff like that. Look, Taco Bell is in it to make money,
Yeah.
100%. They got rid of the Mexican pizza because
Yeah.
it was too expensive because it has to come in its own little box that has a
Right.
cost to it, right? And we all know Taco Bell. It's all the same, like 7 ingredients put
Yes.
in different ways. Apparently, and I didn't even know this until I was reading this article, it was a big hit with vegetarians because they could just leave off the beef, and then
Right.
everything else in the Mexican pizza is vegetarian,
Yeah.
right?
Here's the thing about Taco Bell in general, okay? And I just want to say this to my friend Chris Jugadar. So Chris Jugadar is probably Gujarati, so also don't like him. My people don't like his people, even though we all carry the same passport.
We're all people, Danny. We're all people, all
Yeah,
right? There's
fine.
no his.
We're all
They're your
different berries
people.
of brown.
They're
Yeah,
people.
okay,
No.
fine. Okay, fine. So Chris, listen, hey buddy, I really appreciate. This is me to you. This is me to Chris. I really appreciate that you put together this change.org petition, and I hope it helps your career. But did you know that you can just leave the beef off of literally everything literally everything on the menu? There's 7 ingredients at Taco Bell. Just say, hey, put beans in it instead, or leave the beef out. It's literally not going to change anything. I don't care if you don't eat meat. God bless you. That's fine, okay? But let me tell you something. We all get the same thing from Taco Bell: diarrhea. Okay, that's all
I
they're
do
selling
not.
over
That
there.
is not something I suffer from Taco Bell. Not a
Okay.
huge fan of Taco Bell, but my wife loves it. So, but
What,
look,
dude? If you're in Texas, you don't go to McDonald's, you don't go to Taco Bell. There is a great taco stand on the corner everywhere in Texas.
absolutely, 100%.
When I first moved to Austin, the least Texas of Texas cities, the one thing that I noticed is every strip mall, which I, as a real estate guy, I'm looking to invest in the strip malls, and this is why.
Mhm.
Every strip mall in Texas has roughly the same 4 things: taco stand, barbecue joint, gun store. Right? And I was just like, that's
Hey,
how I
if
knew.
it makes money, why fix something that's not broke? All right.
Hey, listen, I'm not angry at it. I said, when I saw this, I said, this is truly God's country. Okay? Because here we are, the 3 food groups of, like, my 3 food groups:
Mm.
lead, beef, and beef and cheese. Okay?
Look, the part of this story that I found the most disturbing wasn't even the Mexican pizza. Fine.
Right.
Bring it back, don't bring it back, whatever.
Right.
The part that I find the most disturbing part about this article that just lights a fire inside of me that just can't be doused is the celebrities that publicly pine for it to come back. All out of all the celebrities out there that are probably like, hey, Mexican pizza, sure, would love to have that back. The 2 that you mention in this article are Doja Cat and Dolly Parton. Okay,
Yeah.
I had to look up who Doja Cat was. All right,
Well, of course you did. I know who Doja
of course
Cat
I
is.
did because I'm old. But my point is you put her name next to Dolly Parton. Okay, you can't do that. You can't
Well-
do whatever the hell a Doja Cat is and put it next to Dolly Parton's name. It's wrong. You can't do it. It's wrong. Okay. I get that she's a singer and a songwriter and she's probably really good. I don't know.
Mrs. The Big Man likes Taco Bell.
She does. She's a big fan of the Taco Bell. She is. Hey, it's not. I just married her. I'm not responsible. Okay.
I don't. That doesn't compute, man.
Oh, she loves it.
You guys are from Dallas. There's a million taco stands.
Oh yeah, no. Look again. I agree with you.
Okay.
It is not my. People like Torchy's tacos. Not a fan. Okay.
I don't get it.
I have a problem with paying $8 for a $1 taco. Okay. I don't.
Tacos need to be 2 or 3 things: inexpensive, small, and if the people there. And this is not a racist statement. I'm just saying, if the people there speak English, I'm out. Okay. If there's no language barrier, bad tacos.
That's so wrong. Danny, that's wrong. That is not what I believe or Market Explainer believes. That is Danny's opinion.
But you know it's the truth. As a guy who's walked, the minute I walk in and somebody goes, oh, hey, man, what do you want? I'm out, dude. I'm out. Okay. If they don't look at me and start speaking to me in Spanish because they think I might be Hispanic, I'm out, dude. Okay. I'm out.
I'm just, if the construction crew is on lunch,
yeah,
and there's not a line at that stand,
Yeah.
I'm not eating there.
Yeah.
I'm going where the...
Okay. No, I'm going to tell a story that might be misconstrued as racist, and we might have to cut it from the episode. So, but I have to tell the story.
But
Okay?
it'll be on Patreon, so you should, you know what I mean?
100%. It'll be on Patreon. So if the story stops right here, it's on Patreon. When I used to live in Minnesota, a friend of mine called me up. This is when we all have flip phones. He said, "Hey, there's a guy standing in my yard who's lost and he doesn't speak great English. He speaks Spanish." And I was like, "Dude, I took high school Spanish." He's like, "Did you take it in college too?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't speak Spanish. I just took it in college." So I go to his house. He lives down the street. So I go over there. And in broken Spanish, very broken Spanish, I say, "Just follow me and we're going to go somewhere and get someone who speaks Spanish. And they're going to help you figure out where you're going." Okay?
Yep.
So the three of us, we all get in our separate cars. My buddy hops in my car and we go down to the Taco Bell down the street. Now, the line cook hops off the line, clocks out, and gives this guy's directions. Now he goes to me and my friend. My friend is a 6'3" white guy. He goes, "Hey, you did a very nice thing, and I appreciate you guys." And I was like, "Let me ask you a question. Not a little racist that I pulled up to a Taco Bell." He goes, "Man, what do you expect, bro?" I mean, he goes, "All three of us speak Spanish right now." Okay. So what I say is, when I said, if the guy speaks Spanish, if the construction crew isn't in the line, we're not going, how racist is it? Let's deal with reality. Okay.
You're saying it's not racist, it's reality. There you go.
Yeah. So, anyways, I just thought it was an interesting story because, Taco Bell has this tactic where we have nacho fries for a month, we get rid of them. Now we have this other thing. Here's what happens. People like Mrs. the Big Man go, "Hey, I'm going to Taco Bell. They got a new thing. Got to try it."
Right.
So it
or like the McRib you brought up, people get it for nostalgia's sake. It's not available all the time. Look, Starbucks does this with drinks, right? The peppermint mocha during Christmas and the pumpkin mocha during, Halloween or whatever. If you make something exclusive, and look, this is not new. We've known this for a while. If you make something exclusive, people will try it even if it's because it's been a year. Right? They'll try that pumpkin latte because it's been a year and they didn't like it last year, but maybe you changed something and everybody else is raving about it. In this case, Taco Bell has made its... They know, they have a projection of how much money they're going to make by bringing this back and advertising it, right?
Of course.
And they're going to, whether it's a limited time, if you stick a limited time sticker on it, right? A limited time, whatever makes them money and good on them, right?
Hey,
like if they can,
Listen, this story, we've done stories about fast food and other places because I think they're funny and they're interesting. This is the first time I've done a story about a place and I go, I think I have to go there now. Like, we're going to finish the show.
You're going to go get Mexican pizza.
Yeah, I got to go get whatever they have. Yeah.
Right. I don't blame you. All right. What's your tip of the week, Danny?
Tip of the week is, hey, if you want to ruin your life, be somebody that you're not.
I'm going to quit this show eventually, y'all. All right, folks. We'll see you next week.
Until next time.